That would be the time to come forward, and you can raise your Zoom hand or raise your physical hand, and then uh, Zoom hand would be better. And then we're gonna call you up, and then you can just unmute yourself. And there's already somebody, Gabrielle.
Great.
Gabrielle.
Yeah, thank you, Aya. Um, I want to thank you very much for the way you guided us through the Asuba practice. I've always had difficulty with the idea of the body being repulsive. And so instead, now I can think of it more as the natural processes of aging and sickness and death.
Yeah.
And it's a counterbalance because there's a real emphasis now in the medical field of viewing aging as a disease. And
Really?
I yeah, I find that, yes, yes. I find that quite offensive
Yeah.
as a person aging, you know. And then I just wanted to quickly share a reflection someone gave me, and I have it posted on my refrigerator, and I frequently look at it. And it says, nothing more than suffering exists. No sufferers, no sufferer is found. The deeds are, but no doer of the deed is there. Nibbana is, but not the person that enters it. The path is, but no traveler on it seen.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it's you know, and when you were leading us through the elements, this came to mind, um, very much so. And then my question, Aya, is when you were speaking of the elements, you had used sort of a felt experience in your language. For example, the earth is heavy, that it is hard. And could you sort of repeat those
Yeah.
aspects?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So for the earth element, it's hard as opposed to soft. Hardness, softness, structure, and particularly, we can experience in the bones or in the teeth, fingernails, and also outside mountains and rocks. So that's earth element. And then we come to the water element. And water element stands for cohesion, fluidity, wetness. And this is when you make a dough, when you have only the flour, that would be the earth element, and then you put some water into it, it starts to stick together. And water is also symbolizing matter. In traditionally, when people give a food offering, then they sometimes want to do the water pouring ceremony. And then while the monastic sangha does the chanting, the person pours the water from one vessel into another, and then imagines that water symbolizing the matter, flowing out.
Mm.
So that's water element, and then we go to the next one. Fire element stands for heat and cold, and also for maturing. Like when we get older, we dry up, and then we get wrinkled, for example.
Mm.
So that's the fire element. And then we have the wind element, which stands for motion, expansion, and contraction, oscillation, and vibration, all movement, like the wind outside, moving. And the space element doesn't have any feature other than expansion. And then there's, you know, in the when there's many different ways how the elements are spoken about, but then there's the one with the six elements. Then there's also consciousness as the sixth element, and that knows is knowing, empty knowing, you know, which doesn't, there's no self. And the thing is, you know, we can all we can, we don't need to have a scientific, you know, presentation of it. We can experience it very simple. You know, if we knock the head against the wall, we have that experience of hardness. That's earth element. We already know it. We don't need to read anything about it in terms of experience. So it's that, you know, again, you know, to kind of wean the mind off from complication and from complexity, to be able to relate to simplicity, because that is not easy for us, being used to so much complexity and input all the time. And that's a different way of looking at it. And that's very much, you know, like one of the hallmarks of the Buddha's teaching. He doesn't tell us how things are or what they are, but he gives us methods so we can experience for ourselves, you know, is through direct contact, like for example the elements. Is there anything else about that, or does that help?
That's very helpful, Aya. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really appalling that aging is considered a sickness, an illness. It's very crazy indeed. Are you working in the health world that you look
Um, Indirectly, Aya, it was my employer, but it was not my job.
at? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really bad because, you know, if you call it an illness, then you have more chance that you can sell something to make it go away, which is
Yes.
of course impossible. Because if it would be just a natural thing, there's not much to be sold about it. Yeah, it's really so foolish indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. And Serena,
Yes, thank you. I just had a question about, I think it was something to do with,
you are
the,
hard to understand, Serena. Can you speak louder or something like that?
yes, I'll sit closer to the microphone. Can you hear me better now?
Much better.
Oh, good. Okay. I think it was just something at the end of the Asuba practice and just before we started eating. And it's just something of a question about because I don't think that I like understood properly, and also it very much disturbed me. And that was, I think we were just gonna, I think maybe you'd said the reflection about eating, and like eating not for pleasure, and then I think you said something about like the senses of the body and not like and enjoying them or
No,
something.
not
And
for, no, I was saying not for fattening, not for purification. Because
yes,
you must think about that this is 2,600 year old, or like an old reflection. And, you know, if somebody was well fat, that was considered a good thing because
yes,
you're rich, you know, you have food.
I think you were saying something though about all the senses, like not enjoying like seeing too much and not enjoying like
No,
feeling too much.
no, I wasn't saying that, because, you know, we need to do all of it. The senses have a function, you know, to, without the senses we couldn't live. I mean, we couldn't move the body through the landscape if we wouldn't see and feel and hear and all of that. But it's the attachment to pleasurable experiences through the senses. That's what the practice tries us to show us, you know, that the attachment to pleasurable sense experience keeps us imprisoned, you know. So if we just use the senses and have sense experiences, of course that's part of life. But to to cling on to pleasurable ones and be averse to unpleasurable ones. That's like extra, and that's what conditions the mind to trying to get more pleasant and less unpleasant, and we get more and more embroiled by trying to manipulate our lives.
Yes, that all makes sense. I was just missing that second part. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And Marin, you were the next one.
Thank you, Aya. When we were doing the meditation and the reflection about death, there was something that I didn't seem to understand quite completely, I think. And
Yeah.
it was, I was wondering if there was a way in the direct practice that it would be possible to understand these realities about death at the experiential level in any way directly into the practice. Is it with contemplating the body and the impermanence? In this way we can
That
understand.
I know I have also like a second guided meditation which is different, where people need to lie down, and then we talk them through the dissolution of the elements, because usually in the Tibetan tradition, the Vajrayana tradition has a lot of information about that to share. There's a certain order in which the elements fall apart, when consciousness leaves the body. And I don't know it now by heart, but I think the first one would be like the wind element is the one which first goes, and then after the wind element, the next one is temperature, and then water element, and the body starts to get cold, and then water element, the liquids flow out, and then in the end the earth element. So they one by one, they fall apart, so to say, and the person who is dying can, is a feeling it. And for example, if one has been doing that as a practice, then when it comes to it, you won't be so confused by it, because you know already how it's going to be when the elements one by one go. And and because of that, your mind state will be less fearful and less confused, and then there's more opportunity to direct the mind in the right way, because we assume that we're going to have a next birth in Buddhism, a rebirth. As long as consciousness isn't been liberated from ignorance, it will always seek another body in order to live a life and have experiences and so on. And the momentum is the craving, the craving for pleasure and the aversion for the opposite of pleasure. And that kind of momentum perpetuates the consciousness to a next body. And if the dying process is understood and one has trained in it, then one is more kind of quote unquote in control of the mind directing it. And of course, that's like a science. It's a complex teaching in the Vajrayana, which we don't have in the Theravada, but we do have some guidance, which is suggested to give to people when they are dying, for example, to sit at the bed and do some chanting to uplift the mind, and then also remind them of all of the good things they have done in their life, and so on. So, and there have been people, who had near death experiences, who come back and write books and give interviews and all of that stuff. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, I think it's wonderful. There's all these ways of preparing and experiencing.
Yeah.
And thank you for that.
Yeah. And in a way, in a nutshell, we could say that the whole practice is all about preparing for death in a way,
Yeah.
So
Thank
that
you very much.
when we have our next body, we have a good launching pad, so to say, be born into a maybe be born in a family where there is Dharma already available. We don't need to struggle for so many years until we connect with it. For example, that'd be one wish we could have.
Mm.
Yeah.
I feel like this is very rare in the Western culture too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yes. Mm.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Does anyone else want to share something, ask something, clarify? Wendy? Oh, Magdalena, you had a hand up, didn't you?
Okay, I'll mute myself.
Magdalena, I'm sorry, I forgot you. We,
I took my hand down because my observation or question is quite a bit different than the practice one, so I didn't know if it was really appropriate.
no, it's fine, just ask, and then if it's not, because there's not so many questions anyway. Be happy if somebody asks something.
Yeah, I've noticed that in the last few weeks, particularly, I've been focusing a lot on loving kindness, and it's partly as a way for me to deal with my anger or problem with how I see a lot of people being very selfish and indifferent to the death of others, particularly with respect to COVID. And it's partly where some of my workplaces and just what I observe. And so I'm just making that observation. And so that was partly what I was seeking. And also what I've been finding pretty helpful is I walk a lot, particularly 2 to 3 hours a day, just getting to and from work in the last month. And I spend a lot of time on the river and sitting on the river when I can, because that takes some of those feelings away. But it's just this is my personal frustrations. I don't know if other people feel it, but I find it very frustrating seeing unkindness or indifference to others, which usually is manifest by not trying to take care of others.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, don't know what to say to that, because yeah, we can't control the world, isn't it? Yeah, but you can be a good example yourself, by living your values and then, letting go really, because if we say, we only want to be kind if everybody else is also kind, that's, that's kind of, it's childish, right?
Mhm.
A child is be appropriate for a child, but not for us. Because, in the end of the day, you're doing that for yourself, because you're also preparing your mind for that one day you die, and if you have been practicing kindness, it will be the kindest thing you have done to yourself. And at the same time, many other people benefited from it too. So there is no, there is no better thing than doing it, even because you're also you're basically doing it for yourself and for the world at the same time. That's the great thing, so you can never, it's always the loss of people, who are training themselves in unkindness. When they notice it, it might be too late, so I think if we can manage it, it would be good also to kind of consider, to have some kind of compassion with them. I know it sounds crazy, but that would be the appropriate response, actually. And sometimes we need to stop people, being unkind. We need to interfere and say no if it's appropriate. And even sometimes if it is not appropriate, but we have to, it's it's difficult to speak about that in general, but
Well, this partly because I've always worked as an activist a lot in human rights, but I think it's really exposed some of the weaknesses of society and also even people. A lot of people turn inwards or become very angry. So I just do my best, but it's just something that really concerns me. And I try not to take it on too much, and I try to do small things or model behavior I think is appropriate, but it's still very frustrating.
yeah. But in a world which becomes more and more like complex, and so many uncertainties in regards to climate change and many other issues, you know. People get more and more afraid, and it becomes all more polarized, and it seems to be the direction we are going in at the moment, and it doesn't look very um, promising in that regard. That's why practice is really very important. Yeah, because we don't know where it's all going, you know. And COVID was just like the beginning, I suppose. You know, if we continue treating the planet in the way we do and don't make some real big changes, then those issues will become more. And then the only thing we can do is to focus on the practice and do the best we can.
Yeah, I think for me, the focus is just going to be on the loving kindness and trying to keep feeling that despite my concerns or what I see.
Yeah. Well, because of your concern, because of the concerns, you know, rather, and what that evokes in you.
Mhm.
Yeah. Tomorrow we're gonna have loving kindness day anyway, so you're gonna get some more hours in. And Suzanne, hi.
Hi, thank you. This question seems to me pretty simple, but your perspective would be appreciated. When a person dies and he or she is just buried naturally, as opposed to cremation, what do you think about both of the? I think there's a lot of common sense to have a cremation. But I do think it's more natural that the body just decomposes on its own. Could you say a little word on what you think about both of those ways with which to do whatever is necessary for the corpus that remains?
Well, I've never really thought about that, but I mean, you know, I think it's like tradition in families or maybe certain cultures, you know, in Thailand, bodies are always burned because it makes sense in that climate, you know. And where I come from in Austria, mostly, you know, bodies buried in the ground, and only some people get cremated. So I don't have an opinion on that, you know, really. I think what's
It's
more environmentally friendly, I suppose it might be, you know, having like a cardboard coffin or and being buried on the foot of a tree. That's what I would probably opt for, I think, myself. That feels the most simple thing to do, but it's just an opinion. It has no other background than being my opinion.
Well, I do think it's about the conditions of what's most realistic, but I just thought there might have been something more deep-seated about a Buddhist perspective. That's all. I know in Catholicism, years and years and years ago, cremation was really somewhat frowned upon
Oh,
because in some instances the resurrection of the body at the end of the world is supposed to come back again, bodies coming out of the graves.
oh,
Some of it makes me crazy. And if the body has been cremated, the fact that it would reunite again is next to impossible. But during the world wars, when soldiers' bodies were coming back to the States, there was so many deaths. Then the church said, let's just burn them. So it's all about what the needs are, you
okay.
know, and what the environment can sustain or not sustain. But I just thought maybe you had, or maybe there was another Buddhist perspective about what's the better way. See, that's what I said. I think my question is somewhat simplistic.
Okay, it was already cleared then. Okay, there is no special way. It's fine, whatever. Whatever is doable, that's the way to do
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank
for
you.
example, in Tibet, they would put the bodies out, that they chop them in pieces and put it on the rock so that the vultures would come and eat it, because, they didn't have wood to burn because there's no trees, because it's so high up. And, they didn't dig it into the ground either. And then, yeah, this is also a way to do it. But so it's very dependent on the environment where one is and the culture. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Marilyn.
This is kind of a simplistic uh, thought of mine, talking about the fear of death, fear of dying.
Yeah.
When we were really little children, my mother used to come in and we had to pray before we went to bed. We said, "Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take." And, I had no reference for that. Like, I was 5 years old and, I didn't know who the Lord was, but it scared the pants off me, but I had that fear and I had no experience with death. I mean, we had like goldfish bobbing in the goldfish bowl and they'd end up buried under the lilac bush, but no real sense of what death was, except to fear it and know that someone was going to come and get me. And when I went into nursing school, that's gradually you started to experience death and you'd see people die. And often the type of care, it wasn't really comfort care at the time. So a lot of people had very painful, awful deaths. And then one time we were going on our rounds at night and we had this little old lady that I don't remember why she was dying, but she was in a coma. And we'd come to work at night and wonder if she was still there. And we came around at 1 hour and she was standing at the window, completely dressed in her clothes, in her dress and her sweater and her shoes and stockings. And she was looking out the window. It was just pitch dark out. And asked her what she was doing and said, "Oh," she said, "my brothers and my sister want me to come with them." And I said, "Oh," I said, "I can't see them now. Do you want to go back and sleep?" So we put her on bed and gave her a warm blanket and she went back to sleep. And the next hour she had passed away, she was gone. And then another experience with a man who was dying, and I don't remember now why he was dying. And we came into the room at night and he had this little suitcase, smallest little suitcase, and he was packing it and he was putting his things in and folding them up so tiny and perfectly. And so we asked him, he was done sort of, and said, "Do you want to put the suitcase in your clothes closet?" And he said, no, I want to leave it here." So he went back into bed and it was on the foot of his bed. And then the next hour he was gone. So then that kind of gave me a relaxation. I thought, okay, I'm not going to fear this death, that this coming is going to happen. I can't stop it. It's coming no matter what. But I didn't have any perception. I had no understanding or knowledge of Buddhism. And I didn't have any sense of that path, and to maybe welcome death in a sense, because in this life, yes, I like, let's get it over. I'm going to try again and come back and see what happens with me. But there's still, there is something nagging, with me, some fear. And I don't know, I think to myself, I can let go of it, but I know it is there still sometimes nagging me. And is it just I have to put more faith in the path and in the teachings and learning more successfully to let go?
What do you mean nagging? What is
Or
nagging?
something that's sticking with you in the back of your head. It's, you haven't let go, but it's just that thought is there all the time.
What thought?
Well, the thought of fear of dying. And
Okay. Yeah, just, being conscious of it, just whenever the fear of dying comes up, to notice it and just allow it to just be there, because it's natural, to be afraid of that which is uncertain. And this is quite a big thing, it's not a small thing. So I think, to just allow it to be there and be okay with the fear, and see it also as a natural part of being a human being, and being where you are right now, and then through making yourself more acquainted with death, seeing it might start to change.
I thought that I was having that better understanding, but in the last while, I've had all these different opinions from different specialists, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I really am vulnerable. Like, who knows? And I guess we don't know, but so that has brought that up again, and I guess I'm finding it uncomfortable to sit with.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable, but it is what it is. and seeing, I would say, focusing and seeing more clearly that, we have aversion to unpleasant feeling, Vedana, unpleasant Vedana, feeling tone. And that's something to look at. Because you're not actually maybe afraid of dying, but you're afraid of the unpleasant feeling. That's what you're really afraid of. And to just see that, because this is like, it is normal, but we can start to make friend with this aversion, and kind of tone it down, through allowing it to be what it is. And it's just natural to to have a knee-jerk reaction, and wanting to get rid of unpleasant feeling. But then, once you are voluntarily starting to open your mind to it, and see, that's just like part and parcel of being alive, that sometimes, thoughts about death come up, or when we are ill, fear of death comes up, and that is unpleasant. And anyone in my situation would have that. And then there is not so much aversion anymore, and then it's going to tone down, because it's the aversion, the not wanting of it, which is really the issue. That's where you can do something. You can't do anything about dying, because you're going to die, and you can't do anything about the fear of death as long as there is fear, but you can do something about the aversion to it. That's like that famous sutta about the second error. First error is there, and the second error is up to you. And that's where you can do something.
Thank you.
hmm Suzanne, do you have your hand up again?
I tried to lower it and I
Okay.
don't know. It says lower hand and I pressed it and then the hand, there, it goes away.
Okay,
So
excellent.
really, it's just a digital problem.
All right. And now we have Sharon Claire.
Hi,
Hi.
I guess my my question went under my head.
Okay, maybe then we're gonna ask Sangamita, and you can meanwhile think about it, and then we come back to you.
Thank you.
You can write it down. Okay?
Fine.
Okay, Sangamita.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a comment or an observation. When you were here some time ago and did a retreat where you focused on the elements, I did you guide us through, like say, looking at the bones of the body. But it's interesting, when I did it that time, I visualized the bones as they are right now, covered with all kinds of flesh and everything. But today, my visualization, I mean, I didn't direct this is just what came up, because you said just,
Yes.
you don't try and do anything, just see what came. But this time, when we were going from the top of the head and all the way down, I was seeing the bones just as a skeleton without any flesh on them. So that was So that was quite a different meditation, having it that way. And it just felt much more potent for um, feeling non self or impermanence.
Interesting, yeah. Thank you, Sangamita. Sharon, are you ready?
I am.
Okay.
My question is there a wholesome way to die? Is there wholesome, is there such a thing as a wholesome death?
Yeah, absolutely.
So could you comment on that? The other thing that has been bothering me is that I thought I was afraid of dying, but I think I'm more afraid of, or I mean, I thought I was afraid of death, but I think I'm more afraid of what leads up to death, the sickness, the being left with no mind, my body not working, but my mind is working, like all the different combinations of things that can go wrong as we age. I think
Yeah,
those that are frightening me.
yeah, that makes sense, because again, it comes back to being afraid of unpleasant feeling, the pain of it, isn't it? And the insecurity of it and dependency on others and and all of those things. That's is is I think we all have that fear. But it's just part and parcel of being alive. Some people die without all of that. They just go to bed and don't wake up anymore. But we don't know what our karma has in stock for us in this regard. So the only thing what we can do is to prepare as well as possible, to try to cultivate a mind which is is as mindful and aware as possible so that we are not getting lost in aversion. So we can be with the unpleasant feeling, with the insecurity, and with all of that in a way which is in a conscious way, and then just do the best we can. And when we are dying, there is things we can do to try to be, in a space which is peaceful, and to try to sort out all unfinished business with if there's somebody we need to apologize to get that done, or ask for forgiveness, and to sort out any unfinished business, to take care of our what we leave behind, so that people don't have to go into the family needs to start get into difficulty because they start fighting about things. So that's also a kindness, to have that all very clearly designated, and and write down, what you want people to do for you when you are dying. Do you want to have some chanting? Do you want to have some, you know somebody, a special friend, be with you, and all of those things, as much as possible, let someone know, so that people don't feel so helpless, not knowing what you want, because people are often very happy to provide whatever you want. And I think simplicity is really good, and quiet, peaceful, so that the mind, and then maybe have some image of something which uplifts your mind, and focus on that. So, if I think if I would die, I'd have some images of my teachers around me, because I would feel uplifted, and I would feel encouraged having them, remembering them, what I received from them, and maybe some chanting, and some flowers and some lovely things. Yeah.
Thank you, Aya. That makes it feel a lot better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And thinking it's like you're going on a journey, and you just want to make it as smooth as possible. And of course, you can't control it, but you can prepare a few things. It's like a journey, it's a mega journey, from one body to the next. And we need all the help we can get. But it has been done millions of times by people. We can do it too. You know, it's not rocket science. It's like giving birth. You know, you don't you don't need to do it. You just like, you know, make the best possible holding environment, and then the body is doing it itself. We don't need to do it. You know, we just need to get out of the way, I think.
Thank you for those words, Aya.
Thank you. Tamika.
If you don't mind, I'll go after Wendy. I think Wendy has a question.
Okay, Wendy. I forgot you. Oh, sorry, Wendy. You didn't do your Zoom hand. Sorry.
That's okay. It's not really well,
Okay,
anyway.
you don't need the Zoom hand.
Okay. I just wanted to know what the story or the poem that you read at the beginning of this session, was it from the
Terigata, Ubiri.
sorry?
It is from the Terigata. That's the poems of the enlightened nuns who lived around the time of the Buddha. And
Oh, okay. It's not
I type it into the chat. Terigata.
not the modern one.
No, I mean the originals, yeah? Not
Yeah,
the modern one. So let me write that to everyone. Everyone. And you find it in the Pali Canon, Terigata.
And I also wanted to know, because I didn't write it down, the two places that were mentioned that we could get the recordings of this.
Okay,
of
a moment, yeah. You know, let me actually put, I want to put a link in the chat, which then takes you
Oh,
to the Terigata online, to a whole list of all of the possibilities how you can access it. So let me quickly get that here, because that would be easier for everyone to find it.
and what would we do? Just copy that somehow from the chat?
Yes. Or, you know, maybe also Sangamita might send it to all of you, but you can just copy it from the chat. That's not difficult. So I've got that now here. So
I'm very low tech, so.
okay, you copy, you know, I've put it in a chat now. You press on it. It's a blue link.
Yeah.
You press on it and then it's gonna come up and you can bookmark it, or remember, you know, bookmark the link. Terigata.org, Terigata bibliography, and there's many links how you can access the poems by the early Buddhist nuns.
Okay. It'll come on now.
Does it work?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Yeah, that will give you a lot of different ways to look at it. Translations, some of them you can access them just by pressing on the Sutta Central, and then some books, and yeah, that's the whole material of the originals. And is that all, Wendy?
Wait a second. I don't know how to do this. Okay.
Could you open the link? Could you do that?
Yeah, I did.
Perfect.
I did. And I hope I saved it. I think I saved it as a bookmark. What was the other thing now? Oh, it's gone.
And maybe, you know, maybe Sangamita, you can copy the link into the document, you know, you send to people. I think that'd be good. Because Sangamita she can do that.
Okay.
Can you?
Yes.
Great. That's great. Thank you, Sangamita. So then we have Wendy. Can I go to the next person, or do you remember?
Yeah, go to Dhammika.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can come back and raise your hand again.
Sure, I will.
Okay, Dhammika.
Thank you, Aya. Thank you for this retreat. You're waiting for this. And I like to say that, I visit this long-term care facility like at least 4 days per week. And then I see, see how, like the old age and sickness, what we hide from this society. And then that's a big reminder for myself, because, how we go in the path and our attitude towards, the world and towards life, I would say, that can affect when you are in that situation. It's like, sometimes it's their sicknesses too, like you have to respect that. Somebody can be demented and then they don't know what they're doing. But at the same time, sometimes it just pushed me more towards the path, I should say, to have some patience, and also to accept things even when they are not, not the best at the situation, for the situation. And this is a very good retreat. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, because you're taking care of your husband who is needing a lot of care, isn't it?
Yeah.
For
And
many
also,
years, for many years now, right?
sorry, pardon.
For many years.
I am, yeah. He's been there for like at least like 3 years now. And he had close calls, like, he was, he hardly made it. He almost died. So at that time I thought, he's my husband, he's my best friend too, right? Like it's like that's a big loss. So the time that I was there, and at the end, like I chanted for him. He could not chant. I chanted for him, and only thing I could do the rest of it, like I couldn't talk to him, like because he wouldn't talk, right? So but at the end of it, like I left the place. I had to come home at that time, but it was I had this peaceful feeling for some reason coming home, even though it's like, I don't know whether I could see him the next day. Because of the situation and restrictions, I could not stay with him. I'm so grateful that they let me in at that time. But so at the end of the visit, I was driving home and I was talking to a friend, and I felt peaceful for some reason. That's
Yeah, because also, I think you felt peaceful because you had done the best you could in the circumstances, and then you had no remorse,
right.
And you knew you weren't in control, but you did the best you could. And that is, even it's not that you get what you want, but you feel you did your best, and that is giving you peace,
Yeah.
Right? Happy
Yeah,
to
it
know
is.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I something else too. When you mentioned about slowing down at when you, like, just before our lunch break, I thought, this is a very good practice for me, because I'm always tend to rush things, like, I think I carry that over from work home and just, like I don't slow down a lot, like, it's I have to practice that more.
Yeah, great insight. Yeah. Lovely to see you, Damika.
Thank you, Aya. Same here.
And now we have Diane.
Oh, thank you thank you. This has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you very much, Aya. My question is, one of my best friends who I was studying with a few years ago, she suffered depression, and she committed suicide, and she was um, Buddhist, not very practicing, but her friends were Buddhist. So there were ceremonies, which at the time I wasn't as involved as I am now, but I know ceremonies were done for her transition. But I was just wondering, what do you feel about this for people that are left behind? Her mother's still alive and she's doing okay, but it's such an unfinished business. And my understanding is that Buddhists don't really approve, or they don't think it's a good thing. So where do we stand? Best friends, where is she now? What do you think? What are your thoughts on suicide?
Well, as a bhikkhuni, actually, if I give somebody, if I say to someone, my rule, my code of conduct, if I would say to somebody to commit suicide, I would lose my ordination, So,
Oh, I see. Sorry.
yeah, no, just meaning, that I think, it's not something which one would recommend people to do, because the recommendation would be to just, deal with it as good as one can. And of course, because the state of mind in which we die, has quite some influence on our next birth. And I think people who commit suicide often probably die in a very despairing state of mind. So that's not very good, but sometimes that's the only thing what people can do, then they have to do that, and they need a break, I could imagine that, that sometimes people just have such a difficult life that I have no judgment about it,
No.
because and some people often, I've once spoken with a Sri Lankan woman, who was a doctor specialized on suicide of children, actually. And she said, some people are born with they might have committed suicide in another life, they are born with a very strong urge to do this. And then maybe they can resist it for so many years, and then at one point they can't any longer. So it becomes a momentum in the mind, that's the only problem, why I wouldn't recommend it or do it myself. I would rather sit it out.
But there is a major problem in Canada, in the north, when things are so hard on the families, and many young children and children in school are. This is quite new in my understanding. There is an inordinately amount of young people committing suicide.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because there is it doesn't look very, when you look into the future and you know about climate change and you know about all of those issues which are getting activated through, less and less spaces where we can go. I mean, it looks very, very difficult, This is why, if we don't have a practice, it's very difficult to make any sense out of all of this. But if you do have a practice, it makes all sense, because we are not born just to have fun, we are born here to grow in truth, and that can be done with whatever. That's the good news,
Yeah.
And becoming old isn't like the most important thing, becoming wise is the most important thing. And it's very difficult, to speak with people who don't want to go there, in going deeper
Yeah.
into, for example, how I understand Buddhism, about, that it's not just one life, you can't just kill yourself and then be done with it. That doesn't go, that's not a solution. But as long as people are not open to the possibility of rebirth, they're gonna go for an option which isn't really working, because they don't know, but they'll know afterwards, and that's sad, and yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, but one can always share merit, if somebody has committed suicide. If there's nothing else we can do, we can share merit with them, all of the good things we are doing, we can share that energy. That's and that we can say that also to the parents. If there's nothing, because it's that feeling of being so helpless, So that is something we can share with people, that they can do that, so they feel a little bit more, quote unquote, in control, that they can do something.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kim.
Actually, I wanted to defer first to Stephen, who has a question, and then I have something I wanted to share.
Stephen, who is that? I can't see. Stephen,
Yeah,
gallery.
it must be on a different page.
Okay, you're on a different. Okay, Stephen, can you speak? We can't hear you, Stephen. There's something with your microphone, please. Stephen, we can't hear you. We cannot hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Kim. I don't have a Zoom hand, so I put my hand up in the chat.
Okay, cool.
So my question, I have aging parents. My dad's 95 and my mom's 89. And every year I go and see them in Eastern Canada. I'll be seeing them in a few weeks. And I see my mom, aging has been hard for her. She has some dementia. And I guess my question would be, I want to act the wisest I can in alleviating her suffering. I'm not sure how, other than, last summer I gave her a wonderful pedicure and she became way more verbal and relaxed. And, I think metta is certainly one path. But anyway, anything that you could share about what I can do to make her happier.
Yeah,
because I know I have a strong feeling that she is going to die within a year. I think she will.
Yeah, kindness. What you were saying, giving her a pedicure, giving her a massage, or bring her some flowers, go on a walk. Those little things, because when they are old, there's not much you can do other than little kindnesses, and maybe thanking her for everything, she's done for you. And yeah, and just being, showing empathy, and maybe, if you go only once a year, maybe you can call more often now, before you're coming and after you're gone there. Can you speak to her on the phone?
Oh yeah, conversations are a lot shorter.
Yeah.
So and I have to be on my game because she's not going to share much, so I better have something to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can call her.
Yeah, that's one thing you can do, to call more often, and yeah, and just be kind and do little things, and that's all you can do,
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks. And you can also share merit, of course, you can share merit of your practice or any good things you're doing. You can share merit with both of them, and wish them a smooth transition, basically. You can do that.
When you say share merit of my practice, are you talking about when I'm meditating, kind of a loving?
When you're meditating, when you're doing something, for others, anything, where you're giving away of yourself, you can share the merit of that action with them, And you can have like a little, have a place with a photo of both of them, and a candle or whatever, and then when you do your meditation practice every day, you can afterwards you can share the merit with them. You can just say to yourself, may the merit of my practice, benefit my parents, and may they be happy, may they be free from all suffering. You could do that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, you can do that every day. And yeah, and for example, if the time comes that they on their way, if they're in the dying process, for example, you could send an email to our monastery and we can, share merit with them. We have often, names of people on our shrine who are dying. And then after they have died, we can do like a special funeral chanting for them. So you could do that. You can write to us, go on our website and request that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's touching.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Please. Yeah. Now is Kim.
Yeah. And I want to thank Stephen for that. I'm going to visit my 88 and 89-year-old parents on Tuesday on the East Coast of the United States. And it's been very much on my mind how to just relish this time we have.
Yeah.
So I guess there were two things I wanted to share. One is that I've been reading this book by Stephen Levine. It's called A Year to Live.
Yeah, very famous book. Yeah, great book.
And it really is, it's just so extraordinarily helpful. So I just wanted to, if others had not heard of it, to mention it.
Yeah, I think there's many book clubs, where people read that together and practice with it. That's really a beautiful book. Yeah.
And then also, the thing that, I don't know, I struggle so much with is just letting go. And I mean, letting go of everything, letting go of little distractions, big distractions. I don't know, just, I know, I mean, I do have faith that with continued practice, and I do see, sometimes it gets easier, but I feel like there's some stubbornness or holding on that's just so, it's been interesting to see. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is actually just observe it. Like, wow.
Yeah.
But it surprises me. So anyway, I've been feeling, I don't know, during some of the meditations today, I was really struggling with just like being able to drop in. And so anyway, it's just something that I don't know what to do other than to just keep observing, but
Yeah.
maybe you are.
I mean, it's just like every day it's kind of different. Some days it goes where, it's easy to drop in. Other days it's not. So it's just so many, causes and conditions can be so different every day, to just make peace with that, like with everything in life, do the best we can, and then we need to let go. And, letting go doesn't necessarily mean that you won't have an unpleasant feeling there. Letting go means to just accept it for what it is. Letting go of the aversion, and letting go of the desire around whatever is there. That's the letting go. It doesn't mean that then you have a pleasant feeling, you know what I mean? That's not letting go. But sometimes we can equate that letting go means we get what we want. It's just like, that's not really the point. Then this is not real letting go.
I feel like it's equally hard to let go into pleasure. There's like some constriction that just is it's tight and it's there. And anyway, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Just try to be with it.
Yeah. And and allow the mind, to be really aware of the tightness of what, the grasping is felt as that tightness, as this constriction. And if we really, really understand that, the letting go will be the fruit of that understanding. Yeah. And it's just an ongoing project to be with that. And then there are openings, and then it arises again, and that's just the way it is until it changes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we are a bit over time already. Damika, do you have another hand up, or is that just from before?
Sorry, I forgot to lower it.
Sometimes their hands disappear by themselves, sometimes they don't. It's kind of weird. All right, I think, maybe that's it for tonight. And we could close with the universal well-being chant. Sangamita, please, if you could share that for us. And and when we're doing this chant in English, then Stephen, you can share with your parents, and Damika, you can share with your husband, and anyone of you who has anybody who needs some good energy. We can share energy, good merits, benefits with those people. And myself, I dedicate this retreat to someone who is dying at the moment from cancer. It's called Judy McGuire and her partner. And all of you, while we do the chanting, please, hold in your mind those people. Just, either visualizing and the image of the people, or just tuning into them, and then the merits will spread out. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of direction and inherit its results. Sorry. The future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts, they will be the heirs. So I wish you a good night. Sorry, I've just been starting to cough. I don't know why. And, please, make the most of it, of this evening, and just using it as part of the retreat. And then we see you tomorrow again. There's the optional Qigong with Sangamita at 7 Mountain Time. 8 Mountain Time and 7 Pacific Time. And then we meet again at 9 o'clock Mountain Time and 8 o'clock Pacific Time for the next guided meditation and Dhamma reflection. And tomorrow is going to be about metta and then Buddhanusati, contemplation of the Buddha. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night,
night.
everyone.
Thank you,
Good
Sangamita.
night. Thank you very much.
Sangamita, is there anything you need to say?
No, nothing to add, Aya.
Nothing to add?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, bye. Thank you, Sangamita.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.